Good morning, welcome to What Have I Just Read with Michael, with Malcolm,
and with
the Jingle.
Amazing readings. So
Two readings, a lot to talk about.
I got Hosea, so start one. The first one is Hosea 5 and a bit of Hosea 6 as well, right?
That's correct. I mean, some really well-known verses here, actually, some verses that are used quite often.
But isn't there a direct thing about predicting Christ will come? It's like after 2 days he will revive up, and the third day he will raise up.
Exactly. That is often, yeah. I mean, it's this idea of the first part is this judgment that's coming again. Blow the horn in Gibeah, the trumpet in Ramah. You know, the invading army, the Assyrians are coming, and so they're sort of saying, blow them, wake people up, that the desolation has come.
So that's the judgment, right, of the people.
Yeah. I myself will tear and go away. I will carry off, and no one shall rescue. I will return again to my place, says God. Almost, the God who loved them, who chose them, has now moved away. He's gone away from them. But, as you say, you then come to this amazing section. Come, he says, the prophet, let us return to the Lord, for it is he who has torn down and will heal us. He has struck down 2 days. We were dead for 2 days, and he brought us back from the dead on the third day. And you're absolutely right. That's used to speak about the resurrection of Christ as well.
So the second part kind of speaks of hope and sort of restoration of the people, right? In other words, the first one's all judgment and a bit grim.
Exactly.
The second part is, this is what we have to look forward to.
Yeah.
But eventually the last line says, for I desire steadfast love and not sacrifice, knowledge of God rather than burnt offering. So it's interesting because the Old Testament seems to be full of someone making a burnt offering to
But what God is saying, but those sacrifices are, if you like, a response to the love of God.
Right.
And the problem is when people start to think, oh, well, by doing this sacrifice, I can please God.
Right.
And it all comes from the wrong place.
Right.
And so what God says, I want steadfast, the first thing I want is steadfast love. I've loved you, I want you to love me back in return. I don't know, I'm not really after what I can get from you.
Right, yeah, exactly.
What can I get? What I really want from you is that you know me, that you are my people and I will be your God.
Right, and it doesn't mean you build against the maniacal sort of process of just burning bits of wood.
Exactly.
Or animals,
exactly. Right. And this lovely sort of almost as part of God speaking. He'll come to us like the showers, like the spring rains that water the earth. What shall I do with you, O Ephraim? What shall I do with you, O Judah? He's sort of pulling out his hair.
Right.
What shall I do with you? Your love is like a morning cloud. One moment you express your love and then it's gone.
Right.
That's the reason why I've torn you.
Right.
It's to bring you back to me. It's to show you that away from me, you cannot have that which you cannot have life, and it's only with me you can have life.
Right. I love the idea. It's like your love is like G that goes away. It's nice, pretty whilst it lasts, and then it's gone. Yeah, amazing.
And then moving on to this very, very interesting passage of 1 Corinthians.
This is quite controversial, right?
Controversial? Why would it be?
I bet that gets all sorts of...
And there are many different ways of understanding this, and in terms of Paul's last line, if anyone is disposed to be contentious, we have no such custom, nor do the churches of God. It could be, you could say, well, this is very much a cultural thing.
If anyone is supposed to be contentious, is he, as I read that line right, is he just now suddenly saying that everything, if you don't agree with the above, well, in fact, we don't have such a custom.
Nor do the churches
of God. So,
and again, people often talk about the situation in Corinth. It was a seaport.
Right.
There was a thriving prostitution business. Prostitutes would have uncovered hair.
Right.
It's sort of one of the sort of marks. This is what people would say. But I think, there is more here. There is more here in that I want you to understand that Christ is the head of every man and the husband is the head of his wife. The word that is used here in the Greek is the word arche, which means both head, but it also means source.
Right.
And what we're being done here, and this is where I think the great tension comes in our debates about gender and gender role, is that what we're being done here, what Paul is doing here, is he's looking back at creation.
Right.
Where God creates, in the Genesis story, God creates man.
Right.
And man is the source of woman. She comes. So this is actually just the Genesis story repeated, but in a slightly different way.
Right.
That she is the source, and so she comes from. But he says, man was not made from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for the sake of woman, but woman for the sake of man, in the sense that God said, man, it's not good for man to be on his own, he should have a companion.
Right.
For this reason, a woman ought to have a symbol of authority on her head. That's very strange because of the angels. We really don't quite know what's going on there.
Right.
Nevertheless, in the Lord, woman is not independent of man, or man independent of woman. Now we come back to the sort of mutuality.
Right.
For just as woman came from man at the beginning, so man comes through woman. But all things come from God. Judge for yourselves, is it proper for a woman to pray to God with her head unveiled? Well, actually, in different cultures, that is different. There are different ways about that, of looking at that.
And he says, judge for yourselves. And he sort of says it's up to you.
In one sense, he is, and that's certainly how many people take it. Although we had, for instance, in my previous church, we had one of our women priests would only preach. She would only preach if she was wearing a head covering. Right. Because she said, I'm under authority, and even if I don't necessarily like it, I will do it.
Right.
But in one sense, this is looking back.
Right.
But also Paul looks forward to heaven. And in heaven, we're told, the curse has been cancelled. The sort of Genesis 1 and 2, there is great equality, complete equality between men and women. Yes, woman comes from man and all of that, but the two are made one. In Genesis 3 is the fall, and the curse comes in.
Right.
And the curse says, and God says to the woman, your desire will be for your husband and he will rule over you.
Right.
And unfortunately you just see that abusive position.
So that's part of that's part of the curse, is it? So bless you, there was more mutuality, equality.
There seems to be
Eden.
Eden. And then what does Paul write in sort of, in Galatians, that the curse, Christ has cancelled the curse.
Right.
In Christ there is no slave nor Jew, no slave nor free, Jew nor Gentile, male nor female. It's quite a remarkable. And also if you look to heaven and the future, then men and women are completely equal.
Right.
So it's both complementary, men and women complementary, but also equal. That's anyway how I see it.
That's interesting, because actually you do have to be very careful with this passage, because it is easy to look at it and just jump on the bits that look
very
sort of kind of misogynist, kind of outrageous.
Yeah.
And if you look a bit deeper, go, hang on, what really is going on here? Because there's this whole idea was that a woman came from man, so man comes through woman.
Yeah.
But all things come from God. It's actually, that's very interesting how you begin to see a reflection of some of these other earlier passages where.
But obviously you need to spend a lot of time on this passage.
And thinking about this, But is it, fascinating.
Anyway, have a lovely day. And
see you tomorrow.
See you, yes.
Great. Bye. Yeah, really interesting. So what